I'm convinced the number one reason you ever see a modified car in classifieds is not because the car got boring. It's not because it was too well done. And it's not usually to save money, because no one makes money building cars or saves money. It's being sold because they messed it up. Like Googling how to shave because your dad didn't teach you, like I did when I was 26. Learning how to modify your car is a little bit of a mix of trial and error. And error, then error, then error, then I gotta that up, which is why I put together this 5-step program to help you modify any car. No courses, no get-rich-quick schemes, no Claude AI, and honestly, modifying your car could be the opposite of Claude AI, because if I hear one more person mention Claude AI in my Instagram feed, I'm going to lose my marbles. I'll be really honest with you guys, if you're falling into the AI trap, a lot of it just seems to be like API pull things for YouTube Studios. Stop spending money on Mac Minis, start buying more car parts. So welcome to MartiniWorks, where we help people modify their car the right way. And today we're respectfully making sure you don't mess up modifying your car, because we've done it. And I care about you as much as I care about telling significant others that them going to car shows, even though they don't really give a flying hoot about it, is a love language that you need to appreciate more. So be sure to involve them in the conversation next time you come say hi. Now, you can modify any car, anything. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't modify something, all right? It's like a significant other. The weirder they are, honestly, the more fun everything gets. So just remember that the weirder the platform, though, the harder it'll be to modify. And if you try to make a car do something it wasn't intended to do, you're typically gonna have a tougher time. And I try to treat it this way, like modifying your car, it's kind of best to break it down into 5 areas. Number one, how are you gonna make that car look like its fitment could compete at a show? Like, that's a big thing. Number two, have you handled the boring maintenance that no one knows about or cares about? That's a big one. Number three, do you and should you modify anything under the hood? This is a really important thing that we're gonna talk about. Number four, is it worth changing anything in the interior, especially if it's going to make it less comfortable? And finally, number five, can you do all of those things without accidentally having it result in having to call your dad to borrow his Ford F-150 for 3 weeks? Now, I'm gonna break into all of these, so please stick around for the full video. And if you have any tip, please drop it in the comments below. I almost had a stroke there. If you're gonna take any car and make it look good, start with wheel fitment. That's the thing that encompasses your wheels, tires, suspension, and suspension components, okay? The easiest thing to remember is that the lower your car looks, the more it f***s, okay? Easiest way to do that, though, is with coilovers. They're gonna have to bleep this time because I'm swearing a lot. But an adjustable coilover shock assembly that replaces your entire strut. Because an aftermarket setup is shorter overall and the lower body is threaded, it lets you control how high or low your car can sit. But that's not the only way that you can do it, especially if you're on a budget. You could cut the springs, but then you'd be wrong. Don't do that. You can modify it with lowering springs too. And even through some advanced folks in the comments will say you can't do much there. I agree, but it's still a good way to jump into something that will lower your car without the coilover option. Also, you can use the actual tire and wheel size to dial in your fitment too. We have a calculator on the website where you can type in your wheel size and then your new wheel size, and it'll tell you the overall diameter change. So you actually play with making your car lower just by changing your wheel and tire sizes to something that might be smaller. Now, I would argue that wheel and tire fitment can make any car look good. Down in country, more like down in a mon. Am I right? Guys, I had a migraine when I was thinking about this, okay? Bear with me. Okay, I'll be honest with you though. There's really not a chance in hell that you're gonna buy a new car and say, let's do maintenance first. Because to be fair, the most reliable modified cars should start with the most boring work, but none of us do it because it's boring and lame. Ball joints, bushings, cooling systems. BMW, I'm looking at you. Fluids, brakes. BMW, I'm looking at you. The problem is every car from the factory is typically engineered with some form of tolerance, right? Like things that only last a certain amount of time. It's why you'll see cheap RX-8s at 70,000 miles, B5 S4s at 113,000 miles, and 55,000 mile BMW M4s, okay? When those things break, it makes everything terrible, okay? So rubber bushings will start to flex after a certain time. Cooling systems dissipate heat, especially if they're made of plastic. BMW, I'm looking at you. Even brakes will experience greater use when you lower a car with bigger wheels, which induces more load. Load exposes weaknesses, and before you know it, you are screwing. I'm not gonna say that. So make maintenance fun. Learn how to do a compression test, a leak down test. Compression numbers should always be within 10% or so across every cylinder. And knowing this will save you loads of money. And it's a fun way to just kind of get into modifying your car, because sometimes just fixing the thing that's broken is technically modifying, all right? And you can live in that ignorance until you have enough money to supercharge your 3 Series. But until then, just fix your brakes. So check that cooling system, radiator, thermostat, cooling condition, hoses, swelling and cracking. BMW, I'm looking at you. Remember, if you add power, you increase combustion heat as well. And heat bad, cool good. Pretty easy formula. Check those brakes too. If you happen,
Successful.
this is insane. This goddamn studio speaker keeps saying connection successful every 7 minutes. I'm hearing it in my dreams. Check those brakes too. If you happen to make your car faster by 20%, kinetic energy formulas will tell you that braking energy will typically go up by about 40 to 45%. So make sure you've got good pads, rotors, and fresh fluid before jumping into number 3. Now, performance parts are a weird place in 2026, and I just bit my lip because there's so many options. Some are cheap and others are insanely expensive. And if you're building something that you're not sure is known for reliability, fix the things that are unreliable. In other news, water's wet, but dear God, follow the rules. Before you add power, ask yourself 3 really simple things. Number 1, is the platform even known for handling more power? BMW, I'm looking at you. Number 2, what breaks first? Cooling system, I'm looking at you. And number 3, can I afford to fix what breaks first? Every platform has a ceiling and some are lower, like a Bug-Eye WRX, and some are higher, like a Mazda Miata that I'm pretty convinced you could drive without oil. N54 BMW, stock turbos, high pressure fuel pump injectors, WRX, ringlands and cooling, 350Z, oil temps and a really bad clutch. Civic is the transmission, depending on the generation. The thing I'm trying to say is that there's always a weak link somewhere. And when you start to increase torque by like 25 to 30%, you're not just increasing acceleration, you're also increasing load on a lot of different things, like your clutch and your axles and your differential gears and your engine mounts and your transmission heat. Torque is what breaks things typically, not horsepower. So if you're going to tune the car or you're gonna put a bunch of performance parts on it, just try to make a rule for yourself. Start with the supporting mods first, cooling, fueling, mounts, and brakes, then go into power. It's like my daddy always said, if you try to make a car do something it was never engineered to do, your budget multiplies fast. My father never said that, that was a lie. He asked me why I would ever buy a Datsun 280Z and put a V8 in it, and then he told me that my marketing degree was useless. Well, joke's on him. A little bit, I love him to death. Modifying abnormal cars, it's just kind of expensive. It can be complicated, and statistically, it is also unreliable. So modify within the spirit of the platform as best as you can. If it's a light rear-wheel drive car that you're trying to build, lean into the balance. Just get into getting some good sticky tires and have some fun with it. If it's a turbo 4-cylinder, lean into consistent power delivery and connectivity. And if it's a heavy SUV, just lean into the stance and comfort of it. Make it look banging. Stop fighting against the engineering. Use it to make something cool, which pretty much means all you're left with is deciding what you want to do with the interior. Personally, I don't like doing this kind of stuff. Racing seats look sick until you drive 40 minutes to work and realize getting in and out feels like you're climbing into a bathtub. Solid mounts are awesome. They make you feel connected until you're super gluing your air vents in your SN95 because they just keep rattling out. Interior mods increase something really fancy called NVH, okay? Noise, vibration, and harshness. And it's something that really smart, expensive people spent millions of dollars reducing in your car because NVH is something that customers typically hate. So when you stiffen your bushings or your mounts, vibration transfer can go up. And that, my friends, is just physics. Perhaps. I didn't go to physics class in a long time. So ask yourself, is this a daily? Is this a weekend car? And am I building this for performance or just for photos? Like, do I just want it to kind of look sick when I go visit Nan on a Sunday for lunch? Be honest. Build for the life you actually live, not the edit that you're gonna post. Frame me up, put me next to the other motivational posters at your dad's work, okay? Ambition, perseverance, stop overbuilding shit. There you go, okay? The final thing I'm gonna get into is the discipline of it all. And this is the reason that builds die. It's the reason that cars go on marketplace half finished. It's this while we're in there mentality. 4 of the most dangerous words in car culture. Now, you go in to install coilovers, then you decide to refresh the control arms, then you're feeling really frisky, so you do bushings, then you're like, wow, I'm gonna paint this, not powder coat it. Then you wait 6 months because the powder coating person doesn't actually know how to maintain his own schedule, and he's just as bad as all the rap people that you've dealt with for the last 5 years of your entire life, where none of them seem to get anything done on time ever. But then you do the brake lines. Then you realize your wheels, maybe the new ones, don't clear the brakes because you didn't buy them from MartiniWorks. Then the car's on jack stands for 6 weeks, and now you are in fact asking your dad if you can borrow his F-150. So try to avoid the while we're in there thing. I've made that mistake a million times. Here are the rules I use for myself. And as I'm saying this, I'm not pointing to the BMW this time. Thank you! I'm pointing to the Honda S2000 that's over there because that one has sat for a long time. Never modify a car more than like 2 to 3 things. Like start easy peasy, maintenance, wheels, tires, alignment, then, hear me out, drive it. Phase 2, suspension, refinement, brakes, really dial in how you want the thing to feel. Then, hear me out, drive it. Okay, phase 3, you're not gonna believe this. Add some power with some supporting mods. You wanna know what's gonna come after that? I'll put a multiple choice up. That's right, drive it. Each phase should leave the car functionally more fun than before. If you install something and it makes it worse, then big dog, we got a problem. Okay, modifying any car, like, just comes down to this. Every modification you do to a car increases load somewhere. It makes the car harder to do something. Lowering increases suspension load naturally. Bigger wheels increase rotational mass. More power increases drivetrain stress. Stiffer mounts increase vibration transfer, and then nobody's gonna wanna ride with you. If you increase load without increasing support, you create failure points. And if you increase load strategically, you create performance and a more fun car that's modified. And that's it. Cars do not need to end up in the for sale section because the owner lost passion, but they can end up in that place if they lose direction. So have direction, fitment, maintenance, performance, interior if you really want to, and finally, just make sure you're always keeping it all together with just a touch of, dare I say, the D word, discipline. All right, and if you guys are looking for tips, be sure to check out the comment section below. And if you're looking for car parts for this tax season, we have a ton of in-stock works, Continental tires. You can mount and balance wheel and tire packages shipped right to your door at the lowest prices. Plus, you can save like $200 in mounting and balancing. And right now, if you need a little bump, we actually are helping the build happen, because if you check out with Catapult, we'll give you 2% back up to $70. It's just our way of saying thank you for building your car the right way with MartiniWorks. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have a tip below. And of course, if you're subscribed, we'll see you tomorrow.